had a little bit of a delay in our prior executive session, so I apologize for that. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7:41. The public has been duly informed of this meeting in accordance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975 by posting at least 48 hours in advance. A notice on the bulletin boards in Stevenson Churchill Schools, a notice to the Township Clerk, and a notice to the Passaic Herald, and the progress. Please join us for the pledge. Roll call.
Mr. Diddick. Mr. Egan. Ms. Jamboli.
Here.
Mr. DePascal.
Here.
Mr. Frito.
Here. Okay, I'll open up the meeting, sorry about that, to public comments on the agenda items only. If there's any comments on the agenda, this is that opportunity. Okay. We have the pleasure of having our STEAM students here with us this evening to do a presentation.
Hello, Board of Education. Dr. Secretary, Hello, Board of Education. Dr. Secretary, Principal Santana, teachers, and Fairfield families. Thank you for coming to a presentation about STEAM and HAP. In STEAM and HAP, we don't have lessons, we have challenges. Everything is very hands-on, so we'd like to invite the Board of Ed to come up with a short challenge.
We couldn't let you guys just sit, right? Well, we got to make the teams a little equal. So, Mr. Santana, would you come up and be our sixth player?
I'm with Mr. Santana.
If you guys could get into
Listen, if it's not throwing a
they
fastball.
might help you out. They might help you out. So you can join their team. So there's going to be 3 and 3, and this is your challenge. Okay? Okay. So. So, for you, girls versus boys, guys.
We never grew up.
Okay. Come on over here. The boys. Okay, you guys are over here. Okay. All right. Okay. So, for this challenge, you can only touch the ball to put it in the first tube and catch it out of the last tube. Everyone in your group must participate. You have to use all the tubes that are given to you. If the ball falls on the floor before reaching the other side of the room, your group must start back at the beginning of the room again. You cannot throw the ball, and the ball must roll through each tube. Your challenge is to make it from this end of the room to that end of the room. And all of the townspeople are your judges. On your marks. Boys team. Boys team. The room starts back there. Okay. On your marks. Get set. Go! Oh, girls team, we have to start at the beginning again. It's okay.
Fellas, take your time, you got it. So,
Oh, everybody gets to participate, boys team.
He did, he touched the ball.
Remember, you're not supposed to touch the ball with your hands. Oh no, it's okay, we're back. We're out.
thank God he wasn't on the team.
Cheated.
This challenge was a culminating activity in a 5th grade STEAM unit about pipelines. We learned about pipeline construction, both sides of the pipeline debate, and designed and implemented a plan to win the contract of competing pipeline companies. In addition to many iterations of accomplishing tasks, we simulated building pipelines through soil, oceans, and different elevations.
STEAM is an educational approach that incorporates S for science, T for technology, E for engineering, A for the arts, visual, performing, design, and writing, and M for mathematics into problem-based learning activities.
In most jobs, we'll need more than one skill set. STEAM gets us ready for that. Picture an architect. He uses science, math, engineering, and technology to do his jobs. The subjects don't work on their own. Weaving them together allows the architect to design complex buildings.
In STEAM, we work in groups to creatively solve problems through critical thinking and collaboration during hands-on challenges. Sometimes we have to do many iterations to get our prototypes the way we want them. But Ms. Nazarian assures us this is a good experience for the jobs we may have as adults.
Because the engineering design process, or the EDP, can be applied to solving any problem, academic, social, emotional, or extracurricular, it is at the center of every challenge we conduct in STEAM. The steps could have different names, but basically they are defining the problem, brainstorming and researching, designing, constructing, testing, improving, sharing, and evaluating.
HEP stands for High Enrichment Program. It is a class during ITI period where we are challenged to use our brains in interesting and different ways than we use them in our other subjects. We enter competitions with other students from schools all over New Jersey.
Getting into HEP is a big deal. In a group of 35 kids, only one will really be eligible for HEP. To get in, first we have to be pretty fantastic in our regular classes. Then we have to take a lot of extra tests and do a writing sample. We have to keep up our grades in other subjects. We are often in competitions with each other or other gifted and talented students from other schools.
HEP is awesome. We are encouraged to think critically and creatively in our own unique, out-of-the-box ways, while working with our friends who challenge and encourage us. The class goes by pretty fast, but we often work together. It is really nice to be in groups with Nazarian, with other people that I like to work with. And Ms. Nazarian promises this class will help us in West Essex College and the real world after graduation.
STEAM was one of my favorite specials so far. Each grade gets to do different hands-on challenges using the EDP. Some of our prototypes can be seen on the display tables and in the pictures here. We have challenges related to things going on in the world, literature, trends in art, coding and robotics, architecture, stop motion, and much, much more.
In HEP, we also have challenges. However, they are typically more intense and extended than those in STEAM. We began the year with the challenge to build a mast out of mostly cardboard with a moving part and create a video to go with it. The moving part was the most challenging part, but we researched and learned how to do it. 4 of us won this NJCGT competition and got our masks displayed at the Moores Museum. Another challenge we did in HEP was the Fall Scavenger Hunt Challenge. We had to research natural aspects of autumn found in northern New Jersey, figure out riddles, find the aspects around school during nature hikes, photograph them, and use them while creating a slideshow. We also had to develop a healthy and tasty trail mix recipe.
The 4th and 5th grade team, the Cake Pop Hunters, scored in the top category for their bracket. The 6th grade team, the Scavenging Sassafras, won the contest for the bracket and scored more than 10 points higher than their competitors in other groups. competitions in which all the students in the HEP program partake, the different grade levels also have specific challenges. Some of these are investigation into virtual reality, crystal formation, interpretive forensics, 3D printing and designing, electronic circuits, the double bubble conjecture, coding, robotics, and maze building. And it's only the middle of the year.
Thank you for watching our presentation and for your support of the HEP and STEAM programs. After the award certificates are presented to the winning students who've attended tonight, please come see some of our challenges and prototypes. The STEAM and HEP students would love to describe their prototypes, projects, and apparatuses to you.
Hi. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Dory Nazarian, and I am really, really lucky this year to get to be the HEP and STEAM teacher. I wanted to say that I am so proud of all the students. Their ingenuity, perseverance, and creativity impress me every day. Right now, I'd like to call up those students who have won the final rounds of the consortium competitions for award certificates. But I also want to wish good luck to our semifinalists, Joe, Liam, Caitlin, Vita, and Eliana, on the interpretive forensics competition tomorrow morning. First up will be our cardboard engineering winners. Marlon S., Luke I., Sophia P., and Maya S. Please come up. Next up, our slideshow naturalist status awardees. Joey B., Giancarlo S., Igor G., and Caitlin B. Please come up. Now I'd like to call up our fall scavenger hunt category winners. Jessica W., Eliana W., Liam M., Aiden L., and Max C. Please come up. Excellent job, boys and girls. Now, with the presenting STEAM students and HEP students, please go to your projects. We invite everyone to come on up and see their work firsthand. Thank you again for your time.
That's just, yeah. Kids do such a good job.
Tell him to be quiet. She's
We're going to take a 3-minute break and continue the meeting. Thank you.
Boys and girls, thank you so much. You guys did a terrific job. If you have a project that is on the table, you can feel free to take it home right now with your families, unless you'd like to stay for the rest of the Board of Ed meeting, of course. Thank you so much for coming. No, your project, not the robots, the project.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and continue on with the meeting. First, I want to thank Mrs. Nazario for everything. That's fantastic. Congratulations to the students. Good luck to those who are going to be competing tomorrow and in the future events. And hopefully we bring back the more certificates next meeting. We have better news. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Sicatelli.
Okay, so under personnel, non-certificated staff, we have a change in schedule, so the recommendation is to approve the temporary change in schedule for Mark Rivera as listed. Substitute approval, the recommendation is to approve the following fully qualified substitutes. C, under the administration, the recommendation is to approve Ray Santana as the ESEA grant coordinator for the 21-22 school year, retroactive to September 1st of 2021. D, the recommendation is to approve the sidebar agreement to the July 1st, 2019 through the June 30th of 2024 collective bargaining agreement, and to authorize, have the board authorize and direct the board president to execute the attached sidebar agreement. Motion.
Second.
Ms. Jandoli?
Yes.
Mr. DePascal?
Yes.
Mr. Frida?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, under curriculum and program, the first recommendation is to approve the waiver to be submitted to the county for the 22-23 school year. For B, the recommendation is to approve the workshops that are listed. C, we have curriculum approval. The recommendation is to approve the 3 curriculums that are listed for the 21-22 school year.
Motion?
Second.
Ms. Jandoli?
Yes.
Mr. DePascal?
Yes.
Mr. Frida?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, and last on my part is the policy. The recommendation is to accept and approve the second reading of the following policies and regulations.
Motion?
Second.
Ms. Jandoli?
Yes.
Mr. DePascal?
Yes.
Mr. Frida?
Yes.
Motion carries. For business office, we have the minutes of the January 6th and January 20th public and executive session. We also have the bills and claims list, as well as the January 28th payroll. Next, we have the approval of the temporary classroom units at Winston Churchill. This is just the recommendation to submit the application to the DOE and amend the long-range facility plan. Letter D, we have the American Rescue Plan Homeless Children and Youth fund allocation. That is all for the business office.
Motion? Discussion?
Discussion. So we want to approve that contingent upon so that would go to C. Contingent upon the cost from the architectural company for the paperwork to submit.
Still have a second.
Second?
I second. I motion, he seconds.
Ms. Jandoli?
Yes.
Mr. DePascal?
Yes.
Mr. Frida?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay,
Well, you know,
I think I've got a lot. Can you all hear me? If you can't, raise your hand. I'll turn on the mic and the dogs down the road will start to turn their heads. Old business, regarding old business, there was discussion the last 2 meetings, I believe, and the definitely last meeting about potentially having our meetings at Town Hall and televising it on Town Hall, but we went ahead and have the YouTube channel. We used the last special meeting last month, I believe, or a couple weeks ago, and it went very well. I texted a couple people who are working on the YouTube channel tonight, and they said it's just as good. So I believe
Motion?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So we will keep the meetings here. If, of course, we do have issues with the YouTube streaming or anything like that, this is not set in stone. We could always make a change, but we felt it's best to have it here in the schools. Any other old business? New business? Committee reports.
Committee reports. On February 9th at 1:30 p.m., there was a curriculum and technology meeting. I caught the last 30 minutes of it. In attendance was Dr. Tribuco, Dr. Cicatelli, Mike Ludwig, Pat Frida, and myself. Some of the things we discussed were in regards to STEAM, the robots and the 3D printing, the Tinkercad and 3D printing that we use in STEM. 3D printing will continue at Churchill. The EVO coding bot continues to build on coding. We discussed the configuration of the VLAN and IP addresses at Churchill to accommodate more students. We discussed the speakers for the trailers, how they will be hooked up, and who will be responsible for our mobile classrooms. Our network has 8 in total, which will be provided and installing into the mobile classrooms. So there will be 8 ports in the classrooms. We just purchased Chromebooks and classroom laptops. Student Chromebooks will be purchased in late July. Anything else? Pat, you were in the meeting?
There was, I think there was no real big budget expenditures other than workbooks. You know, of course, you have to replenish those yearly. Lab supplies. So everything in our technology plan that we've been doing over the last 5 years has allowed us to prepare for expanding the technology networks at both schools. So we are in good shape of having major costs to the budget technology. So good planning on the technology group, good planning on the staff and the administration. So that's really it. Any questions? Any other committee reports? Okay. We will now open it up to the public on comments on non-agenda items and questions. If you do come up, the sign-up sheet is at the desk by the door. You put your name and your address, and up at the microphone, all you have to do is just state your name. You don't need the address at the microphone. I signed up. Okay.
Good evening. Can you just state your name and address for the record?
Just the name, the address.
Is this thing on? Yeah, it is. My name is Stephen Clifford, and I live at 12 Inwood Terrace. Good evening. I'm a father of a student who attends Stevenson Elementary. I'm here because I wanted to speak to those responsible for the current schooling in our town. I was inspired by a quote from the famous English and Irish scholar Edmund Burke. He said, "Nobody made a greater mistake than he who did nothing, because he can only do so little." I come here with hope that there is a plan for change, a plan that many parents also hope is in place. I've grown up here and now choose to raise my family here. I use the word choose because I have a choice to move my family somewhere else. That's what makes it wonderful to be an American. Choice. Our children do not have choice today. They're voiceless, muzzled. They don't have a choice to walk into school and see their friends' smiles as they enter the doors. They don't see their teachers' mouths moving when reading a book or explaining pronunciations of a new word they are learning. Instead, they are taught that the air around them that they cannot see is dangerous. Earth's air is the boogeyman. Learning that at 5, 6, 7 causes unprecedented amounts of unnecessary anxiety, stress, and mental illness. So I stand here before you and ask a simple question. Do any of you have a plan as to when these masks and guidelines will be removed for our children? Is it March 7th? Why then? Why not today? Why is that arbitrary date of any less of a risk? Are we going to still obey the people who have been wrong on all of these issues? Are we going to just pretend that the only reason science changed is because it's politically expedient as November approaches? Were you always like this? Adults telling you what you can and cannot do to your body and just gladly go along with it until they snap their fingers? Someone else telling you when you can be free? If you want to wear a mask, fine. If you want your child to wear a mask, not my call. That's your child. I may disagree and you may disagree with me, but I'll never presume to order you to do something to your own child. What kind of narcissist would presume to mandate that on someone else's family? I believe many of you board members are hiding behind the CDC's current messaging that seemingly changes whenever a new poll is released in DC. I believe you all use it as a crutch and give us the palms up, what can we do attitude when a parent brings it up to you. I'm sure if you cross the bureaucrats in Trenton, you risk losing funding from the state. But let's be real, you are choosing that over the children's mental health and their ability to socialize and learn, not for COVID. We all know these masks will one day go away. This is not going to be forgotten. Who is there sitting doing absolutely nothing to help our children? In fact, doing willful harm to them in the name of cowardice or political ideology. But I can tell you what you can do. You can be remembered as the first New Jersey town to stand up to people in Trenton and be a beacon of bravery to the other New Jersey communities looking for a spark to ignite the inevitable flame for freedom and choice. You will be remembered for this. That is certain. How will you be remembered is up to you. Because something you cannot stop is that these children who are 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 will all grow up. And they'll remember these times who was responsible for enabling and sitting back, and who was there fighting for their rights. I'll leave you with a quote from the same Edmund Burke. The only thing necessary for triumph of evil is for good men and women to do nothing. Thank you.
Christine Cifelli, 61 Deer Park Road. Good evening. I wanted to just speak on, I guess, about the courtesy busing. I understand that it's a courtesy, it's exactly what it means, and we've been provided this luxury in this town. It was a huge selling point for many families who came to town, courtesy busing. Myself, my daughter's been using the bus system since she was in kindergarten. Now she's in 6th grade. We've used the busing literally 8 years. If you ask me why 8 years, she was retained in kindergarten. I'm upset because I'm wondering, you have these beautiful children here tonight presenting from HEP and STEAM. I'm wondering what you guys have done prior to pulling our busing. Did you go back and say, okay, let's find the families that are not going on the bus, that are signing up for it? Did you say, let's charge everybody for busing then that's using the bus? That would prevent you from having people sign up for the bus and not use it. I get the cost. I get the burden. But I'm a parent that needs the busing, and unfortunately, I live just a smidgy too close. I'm a working parent, my husband's a working parent, and it just stinks that we've been using it this long and now it's going to be pulled from us. And now, instead of going back to the referendum, getting the $200 taxed onto us at the end of the year, now I got to pay a $500 bus fee. So that's not fair to me. It's not fair to the other people, the other hardworking people in here. It almost feels punitive because the referendum fell through. And I feel like if there was more community involvement, you reaching out to the community, I really feel like you could have gotten that referendum passed. You had 3 fantastic drawings. Pitch it out to the community. They're happy to help. Just with the busing situation, pitch it out to the community. What solutions? We're talking about these kids, these HEP kids. They're coming up with solutions to problems. Why aren't we coming up with solutions to problems? It's just falling back on us, the parents, and it hurts. I'm just wondering, please take into consideration your parents that just because I live too close doesn't mean I'm not using the busing. Don't make me pay for something when I haven't had to pay for it and I use it. But you got the person that lives 2.1 miles away from the school. They're going to sign their kid up anyway because they don't have to pay for it. So help a parent like me out, please. Reconsider, go back in chambers, make some decisions. Reach out to the community. We're here to help you guys, okay? We are partners in our children's education. That's how it should be. Thank you.
Good evening, Loredana Shaholi, 2 Sarah Lane. I'm new in town. We moved here in September from West Caldwell. The number one selling point for me and my family to move to Fairfield was the courtesy busing. I personally feel, as well as the last mother said, we are in an era where majority of households have both parents working and or single parents. It may seem $500 is not a lot of money. For some, it's more. It's more than just a little bit of money. Courtesy busing, you guys could have gone back. I personally feel, go back and re-look at the routes that the buses are doing, perhaps combine 2 of the buses. I have 2 Stevenson buses that go down our block. One of them is a third full, same route. My daughter's bus, full, 2/3. Why can't we combine the 2 buses? Why do we have multiple buses going down the same route when we can put them all together, maybe get rid of 5 buses to save on the budget? I know buses are expensive, but it's a very big selling point and one of the main reasons why we moved to Fairfield. I'd like to ask that you guys reconsider the bus subscription and possibly see if we can do anything to provide the courtesy busing to my family and other families that are in Fairfield that need it. Thank you very much.
Hi, Nicole Breslin, 15 Josine Drive. I just have a couple of questions. I know it's happened, but I just do have a couple of questions that I don't want to take to social media forums to ask and things like that, because we know how that goes. I have a couple of questions about the bridge not being fixed in time. If that's not fixed in time, what happens? I'm within the 2 miles, but what happens if you're not then within the 2 miles? Because it does take the bus route longer, and I don't have a direct route for my child to get to school, because I'm planning on having him walk or ride his bike to school. And he has to go over the bridge to get there. And that brings him outside the 2 miles. What if we have multiple children in multiple schools, which I will next year? We have 4 children that have come through this district, and 1 is in West Essex, and 1 is in Churchill, and 2 are in Stevenson. Will you stagger the dismissal times and the entrance times to when school starts? Because we can't split ourselves in 2 to get there, and we saw how the lines to get into school when only half the children were not being bused because of the COVID staggering, how detrimental that was to traffic and getting to school on time. So I just didn't know what the contingency plans were for that. Will there be crossing guards at the main intersections to make sure and ensure the children's safety? And what would be the cost of that? And will we be enhancing our before and after school programs for parents that really do rely on the bus? I mean, I know I also heavily rely on the busing. I'm a teacher as well, and I'm often racing the buses home to make sure that I get there before the buses do, and it's a very important 20 minutes after school. And for the before and after school programs. And I guess that's it. I really did want to know what, with all the money that we are saving too, what are the actual programs that we are planning on implementing besides the trailers, which I know cost a lot of money? That may have been answered. I just don't know if that has been answered before. But what will they be using all the money we are saving on? And I guess that's all my questions. Thank you.
No squeak. Okay, if we could just take a second, I want to just start answering some of these questions so that in the event others have the same question, we don't have to keep repeating them. As for the bridge, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's considered temporary because it's not gonna be a long, it's not a permanent change where the bridge is gone. So because of that, the state of New Jersey states that it doesn't change the routing because it is a temporary, blockage right now. Hopefully it'll be done by September, but that's how it works. It's considered temporary, so it doesn't change the distance from home to schools. As for multiple children in schools and staggering time, I'm going to have Dr. Cicatelli.
Just about the bridge, we did reach out to liaison of the police department, but he was away on training, so I just wanted to see if we ever got back, and he didn't get back to you yet, right? We do have a meeting with town officials on Thursday, so hopefully we'll have more information about some of these concerns when we meet then. I'm sorry, the staggering. So
Yes.
I've been working on schedules to try to stagger the times. Something that's been a problem why it hasn't been staggered in the past is because we share specialists for certain areas, like not our STEAM teacher because she's here in this building, but our world language, our art teacher, music teacher, one phys ed teacher. So to keep them on the same schedule has been the reason why we've done that in the past, because they travel between both buildings. So to have them on different times wasn't going to be easy to do. But with trying to move third grade over here, I was able to now play with the schedules so that we can start their times a little bit differently. So the schools will have a little bit of difference in time, so we'll give you time to get between both buildings. But that's all contingent on if we're definitely moving third grade. If we're not, I won't be able to.
And then I think there was a question regarding before and after school programs. Is anything being discussed besides Tiny Treasures? That's it, right? Tiny Treasures will still be available for before and after school. And then as Dr. Cicatelli said, the bridge and crossing guards and all that, that's a discussion between the staff and township, because costs and responsibilities may be shared, or it's responsible of law enforcement. I don't know. I can't say I know that answer. I've looked on the internet and it's had multiple answers, so that's something that we'll get some answers once we have that meeting. In regards to, and I'll give you opportunities to speak, I promise. In regards to the busing as to why, you have to remember we're all parents up here, so yes, I think somebody mentioned, it's almost like almost like, because the referendum didn't happen, we're being spiteful. A couple things. First of all, had the referendum passed, the busing situation is still the busing situation. This would have still been an issue that we would have to face fiscally, so the referendum has nothing to do with the busing. So just want to make sure that that's cleared up. Like I said, we're all parents here, so it's not like we're doing anything to anybody out there that's not being shared here. That is, I just want to make sure everyone understands that. And, I think they said, where would the money savings go? Well, you saw the fantastic program we have here in STEM. And the additional savings will be going toward the educational programs here. Over the past years, and I can tell you that because I've been on the board for a few years, we've had to take away some funding from certain programs in order to allow for the courtesy busing to continue. When it's averaging a 4% increase every year, and we don't know what the increase would be this year because of everything else happening out there with fuel and everything all, that would be more money taken away from the educational programs. And I believe Mr. Santana gave an example at that special meeting where we were cutting back on supplies in the classrooms, as an example.
We went from 70,000 a year when I started here. I'm down to 34,000 a year in supplies.
So we thought it's best to put the money toward education, and we can see what's happening with that because of the fantastic programs and the students winning the recognition and the competitions in STEM. And at the same time, we are the last school district in the West Essex community that had to go to this. It wasn't an easy decision, but North Caldwell and Roseland are also courtesy. So unfortunately, the costs caught up with us. And we were informed a few years back by the BA prior to Leanna that this was something that's gonna come to head, and we were just avoiding the inevitable, unfortunately. I'll open it up to Andrea or
So
Anthony.
I'd like to just touch base with Mrs. Felly and Mrs. Breslin, that tonight I'm the only board member here that has children in both schools. So financially, I'm gonna be affected by this decision. And initially, I was dead set against it, right? Because like many of you, this was a selling point to move to Fairfield in addition to many other wonderful things. But I can honestly tell you, as a parent with children in both Stevenson and Churchill, as disappointed as I am that we got to where we are, where we have to charge, I would be even more disappointed in myself forcing to take away the funding from our educational programs. So yes, it's a burden. It's a burden for all of us. It's a financial burden. And I'm not happy with the decision that we had to make. But I am happy with the fact knowing that the money that was going towards busing is now going to go towards educational programs. Now, as to the detail of those programs, that's going to be determined, and we'll fill you in. That's not something that we're privy to. But I can honestly tell you that it's a difficult decision for all of us. But if I had to shortchange my children on their education over that financial decision, I would be more upset and disappointed than I am now that I have to pay for busing. And I think if we all just take a second and realize that this is not because the referendum didn't pass. The referendum started before I even thought about running on the board. And when I joined the board, the referendum was already in motion, and some of the board members here had no say in it. But when you really think about the situation, there's a lot we could be mad about, and COVID caused a lot of it. But the truth of the matter is, the money that we're paying towards busing is going towards our children's education, and that should be first and foremost. So, please look at it from that point of view, not that the Board of Education or the administration is trying to punish everyone for a referendum that didn't pass. I wasn't part of the referendum. I didn't agree with the referendum. I'll publicly state that. And I'm not happy with the fact that I have to pay for my kids to get to school. But there is some comfort in knowing that that money is going towards their educational foundation.
I guess you guys both pretty much summed up what I wanted to say, and I can just say that I too have children that went through the school system, and I've been on the board for a very long time, and unfortunately, the price of the buses every single year has gone up, and every year this has become a very tough decision for us, and that we've held this off for, I can say 5 to 6 years, approximately, because of the same issues that we're going through today. And the costs have become so overwhelming that unfortunately it was education versus transportation. So we're all parents, we all understand it, and unfortunately we're not happy about the situation, but this is where we're at.
And to touch on the first gentleman that spoke, quoted, my intention is to have our children in school on March 7th without a mask. So you asked a direct question, you didn't give us an opportunity didn't give me an opportunity or the other board members.
Why not now then?
Well,
What's the difference between now?
Well, and that's a great question. And although I want my children to be in school without masks, we are still considering the fact that by us moving to that now, we jeopardize our financial aid. And it might be a smidgen of a
For what? For Murphy Snap Sneakers? Okay, now you guys can do it? It's the bullshit.
Valid point.
What about if it doesn't change? March 7th, what about they go back on what they said, because they change every minute?
It changes every
Then
second.
what are you guys gonna do? Is it gonna be optional, or are you guys gonna stick by that?
Guys, you ask a question, we answer it. This is not, if you want to speak or ask a question, come up. I'm touching on what you said, what my intention is. That's my intention.
Your board's intention.
The board's intention is on March 7th to have the kids in school without masks.
Mask option.
Mask option, but not mandatory.
Because just as much as, and you stated, just as much as you say there may be others who disagree, there are. But the board right now, as it stands, and hopefully that doesn't change, March 7th will be mask optional.
Robert Rosania, 4 Allison Drive, Fairfield. Thank you for answering that question. That was why I was coming up here, to be honest. But I also have another piece of information. Yesterday being Valentine's Day, our kids couldn't exchange Valentines, which seems a little ridiculous, but neither here nor there. They had some time to have their own personal drawing time. So, my daughter received this picture from another 3rd grader, okay? Now, I'm not a psychologist, but I want to show this picture to you. So instead of drawing hearts with arrows through them and making messages saying, I love you, this is the type of work that is coming from our students, giving it to other students. Like I said, I'm not a psychologist, but this seems like not good. This is not something good that a 3rd grader should be thinking of, guys. This is not right. It's hurting our kids. We need to stop it.
Joe Basiglia, 9 Crescent Drive. We've talked about the masks mandate. So what you just mentioned suggested that there was some risk of this March 7th date. Can you give us any details
Well, we didn't say
around that?
we didn't say there's a risk.
Well,
We're
no,
just
you
saying-
alluded to the fact that, God willing, March 7th,
Well,
So, if there is an update, because we've been going back and forth via email.
I just want to be on the record very clear. Never said God willing, never said an update. Our intention is March 7th to have mask optional.
Okay,
Period.
what is the risk of that not happening? Is there a risk of
Not
that
that we
not
know
happening?
of, I think they're just making sure that, like, we don't get something from the state that says we can't do it, but I don't think that's gonna happen.
But if you follow the numbers in the Cali score,
Yeah.
everything's going down.
Everything.
Right.
So,
Even in our cases in school, we have a dashboard that's on our website, and everything's going down.
Okay, so I know we've gone back and forth on email, you're stating that you're conferring with the local health department, so my question was just around, hey, is there any updates around that? Are we at risk for anything? And it sounds like it's not.
No, and the one thing I wanted to clarify is that we are waiting, meaning guidance on how is social distancing gonna happen? Do we need to do that? Do we need to contact tracers? Do we need to tell kids to quarantine? Everything's based on rules right now with children wearing masks, adults wearing masks. So now if it's optional, all of the protocols that are put in place that we're supposed to follow go out the window, right? So we want to do mask optional come March 7th, so when I put out the blast to everybody saying that we're waiting on guidance, it was just meaning how we operate.
Okay.
Okay, so we have every intention to do mask optional, we're not pulling that back. We just need guidance as to, do we need to continue to spin in circles and chase our tails to figure certain things out, because everyone's then considered a close contact because no one's wearing a mask. So we're hoping that goes away as well. We're hopeful. So that's what we're looking for.
Okay, so all I ask is just continue to be transparent, let us know if anything changes or it's going in the wrong direction. Because obviously there's a lot of parents that feel strongly about this, and, you know, we look to you guys to help this.
And we feel strongly about it being optional as well. We want the parents to have a choice.
Thank you.
We really do.
Hi, I'm Nicole Studol, 28 Allen Drive. I just actually want to go back to Mr. Felly, because I don't really feel like her question was answered, that we jumped right to going to subscription busing. That's what we think. I understand this has been in the works,
but I believe the presentation was 60% ridership, 40% people weren't riding it. Were those 40% notified, sort of use it or lose it? We're losing money. If you're not using it, you will lose your busing? Did you?
Unfortunately, correct, okay. Oh, yeah, I was gonna say, unfortunately, it's not a 60/40 is the data, but if we cannot offer courtesy busing to a certain group and not everyone, so we can't make exceptions, so it has to be by law, we have to provide the buses 2 miles and above.
Right. But I'm saying if it's not used, you get penalized, is what I would.
The thing is, the survey came out, so what you're doing now is you're definitely saying, I'm gonna use it. If you pay and don't use it, well then that's really, it's not gonna change the ridership, but you're basically saying that I'm gonna be using the bus. We can't pick and choose, like, this route, we're gonna go ahead and we have students available. This route we have to charge because it's packed. So unfortunately, it was almost, you have to go to the subscription service below the 2 miles. So even though it's a 60/40 right now, we cannot say you can't ride this anymore if we have courtesy busing.
So okay, but you did reach out to the 40% that were not using it and explain to them that if you're not using this bus and this is problematic for us and it will impact our district, it will. We've
reached out because a waiting list at times because we had to be socially distanced on the bus, and when they take attendance, and then they did reach out and hey, you know what, your child hasn't been on the bus so many times, we're going to give up the seat if it's not in use. So they've been
on multiple occasions, both last year and this year, emails have gone out to parents, pretty much saying, we've been monitoring ridership, we've noticed your child has not been riding. If your child does not ride by X date, we will not be able to correct your
That's my question.
So
Okay.
multiple attempts have been made.
See, that's stuff we don't know, that it looks like you just jumped to subscription. On that, go ahead.
But this is stuff that's discussed at every board meeting.
I'm one of the few people here that's at every board meeting, so I'm well aware, but that detail is not provided, so that is not what we saw. Even when you guys passed it just now, it was item number 5. People who are not familiar with the meetings have no idea you addressed busing today. No idea.
This was brought up at the information session.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying, to your point, because I know many people, like, they talked about it already, that was item 5, well, a little shady, whatever. But my next question is, the information shared in that presentation, was that for Stevenson and Churchill, that ridership info? Because I had a hard time understanding it, I thought it was just Stevenson data.
You would have to go back and look at the presentations, I'm pretty sure it said it on there.
I think it was for both. I think the ridership 60/40 was for both.
Okay, I thought it said, it just said Stevenson.
Again, just please go back to the presentation, it's on there.
Okay, no, I hope someone up here who made it might remember. That's fine, I'll go watch it again, I don't have a problem with that.
Unfortunately, I don't just handle transportation, I have several other duties, so I don't have an answer for you. That information is available on the
We don't have,
presentation.
so I think that was it with my 2 questions. Thank you.
Hello, how are you? Lauren Italiano, 4 Miles in the Court. I just wanted to circle back from last meeting. We talked a little bit about savings. When we talk about the subscription busing, do we have a hard number on the percentage we're saving and what that's going to look like for us as a district?
I believe, I'm not going to answer the full question. I'll give you, we, I think, are putting aside in the budget, I think, what was the total? Like 5? What was the total?
February 22nd, the governor is having his budget address.
Okay.
For 48 hours after that, the state aid numbers are released. For me to say savings at this moment, it's too soon for me to say what kind of savings there are when I don't even know what our state aid is going to look like.
I know we are putting aside enough, or we've discussed, because we are in the budget cycle now, and we're talking about the budget now. We are putting aside money and going to make a line item where we will be able to absorb increases, because even though we have busing that we have to provide, every year, it's inevitable, gas prices go up.
Right.
You know, so we're putting money aside, we're working those numbers, like Leanna said, we're waiting on the state aid that's going to be able to help us absorb increases over the next few years, so that we're not coming back next year going, hey, you know, we need more money. And at the same time, the board is also looking to, we're helping to subsidize the cost. It's not that we just said it's all on the parents. Once again, we're all parents.
Of course.
So we saw what, we're trying to see the best way to subsidize, and that's how we came up with that $500 figure, so that we're subsidizing some of the costs also, and that we're building that buffer so that the subsidization will continue, and also it'll plan for increases, but eventually, you know what happens, and we're hoping it's years down, but we're hoping that we've built enough that when it eventually meets, and then we may have to go out again, and I'm not saying tomorrow or next year, I'm just projecting to the future, that the cost may increase because, you know, what we built in and the cost of increasing for transportation continues to rise, and then eventually that buffer disappears, and then, you know, the subsidy, you know, the cost for transportation goes up, whether $50, $100, I don't know. We're hoping that we're gonna subsidize it enough to project that out years from now, so it's not gonna be a yearly thing, hey, we need more money, we need more money, we need more money.
Of course. Okay.
Yeah, also too, with the survey, right, the survey is just a survey. It doesn't really mean that, you know, if 100 people responded, that those 100 people are going to be paying, right? Of the 100 that responded to a survey, for example, you can have maybe 60 that will actually pay, right? So that's another reason why it's still too soon for us to really figure out what is this going to look like. What kind of money are we going to have coming in? The survey is just a survey. It really, you know, doesn't give any accurate information as far as, you know.
So you're thinking at minimum after next week and the 22nd, you'll have a little bit better of a handle on what that
So
might look
the
like.
tentative budget goes for board approval March 15th.
Okay.
The state releases its state aid 48 hours after February 22nd. So that would be about the 24th.
Okay.
And then at that point, that's where I have to start plugging in all of the revenue
And you can come up,
working the budget.
Okay, understood, thank you.
You're welcome. I just also want to point out with the questions regarding subscription busing, when we sent out the survey, which was sent out to over 300 families, I included an email address on there in the event anyone had any questions regarding subscription busing. The email address is transportation@fpsk6.org. Okay, some of you may have emailed me, some of you may have not, but the emails that I have received, I can't say that I have responded within 48 hours. So again, if you have any questions regarding subscription busing, or you need any clarification, that is the email address. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dawn Baraka, 32 Campbell Road. I have a lot of things I want to touch on, but I just want to go back to this mom that comes to all the meetings. You guys blew through all of this. I still can't even find where the busing was talked about or anything whatsoever. So just as far as that goes, it's very confusing. Aside from that, you sent an email out to everybody, to 305 parents, and 100 and something of them responded. My question is, how are you determining who lives how far from where? Where are you getting that data and information? Don't surveyors need to go out, and doesn't more work need to be done in order to determine that? And with that being said, if you're gonna come to us and say, we're gonna switch from courtesy busing to subscription busing, don't you think you should have a plan in place on where you were gonna spend that money? Or how much money you were looking to save in broad numbers before you just jumped into that? I would think that you should have some type of a plan in place before you just said, oh no, this is gonna save us money and put it back into our programs. Our schools are busting at the seams that you wanna put trailers out, but we're worried about programming money, like that's where we're gonna filter this money through. You're gonna put 3rd grade here. Have you thought about eliminating your preschool program? And giving us classrooms for those kids so that we don't have to put them in this building? This building doesn't even have a fenced-in playground. There is no playground. There's no slides, there's no swings, there's nothing here for an 8-year-old. A 10, 11, and 12-year-old can be trusted back there.
not an 8-year-old. You have a brook back in there. I don't know how much thought has been going into all of your planning right now, but it seems like everybody's just rushing to get things done without, we don't even have a referendum to vote on to go forward. So trailers are not a Band-Aid. They're supposed to be when you have a plan in place. We have no plans. So how long are these trailers gonna stay here? And then going backwards again to the busing. The bridge is a temporary thing, but how temporary is that, and what does the law state for that? If that's a 5-year thing, are we gonna say that I'm still 1.8 miles from the school with that bus, the bridge that doesn't exist? Because the route I have to take now puts me at 2.5. I think there's a lot more that needs to go into this thought process than just, oh, this is what we're doing now. And I think we need better answers than that. Thank you.
I'll answer some of the questions.
Okay.
You said about the planning. Well, we did a referendum, unfortunately it failed. So when you say, are we planning? The trailer was discussed during the referendum meetings. And as it is part of the plan, it is temporary. Our plan is to go forward with another referendum. We've mentioned that a couple times at past meetings also. You just can't turn around and put a referendum through. There's a legal process that needs to be followed. The board will be going forward with another referendum. I don't know the specific dates that you can put them through, but there's specific times of the year that you can submit a referendum, and we are going to go forward. The trailers are a Band-Aid. The savings, I can't give you that exact number because as Leanna mentioned, we're still waiting on state aid, but we are going to save considerable, a couple $100,000. If you can recall, and I'm not putting you on the spot, what was the cost of transportation when you started and where are we at today, just to give an example?
It ranged from, I want to say 1920, over 500,000, and that was with an 85% or so discount. But again, I don't have the numbers in front of me, so that's what.
So we're over $560,000 just on transportation. I can tell you that I remember with the prior BA, we were at 300,000 at one point. So it is increased tremendously over the years. So the monies that we are saving, and remember, I said before, and I'm going to stress it again because it's not like we're making decisions up here and it's only affecting all of you, it's affecting all of us. So we are looking at a way, and that's how we came to the $500 figure, to subsidize the cost for transportation so that not only are we doing legally what's needed to pay for the busing for the 2 miles and above, but we're also putting money in to help subsidize the costs to the rest of us who have to pay for subscription busing. How much of that? We're waiting on state aid so that, as I mentioned before, we can build in a buffer so that it will accrue any increases over the years and hopefully help with the subsidization and that we don't come back every year asking for more money. That's not our intention. We're hoping to build enough of a line item in the budget that this is going to be a fixed line item where in the past it's gone up every year because of the cost. So that's what we're doing. We're not saying that we're not going to save money. And let's use numbers for just argument's sake. If we save $200,000, putting $200,000 into the building isn't going to get us the room we need. The referendum was a $29 million referendum, and that was to build additions here. $200,000 isn't going to get you the space that's necessary for the classrooms that we need and reconfigure a building. We are still doing, we have projects that we are still doing, and we can't stop. We have to do, we have boilers that we're looking at, the electrical panel that was mentioned, potential roof issues that need to be addressed. So these are plans that are still in place. All that stuff that was part of the referendum that were fixes inside the buildings are still going forward. We still have to plan for that. We just can't stop. So that money goes out of a different part of the budget that we can't use for education purposes. That's part of capital improvements. So we are still moving forward to improve the schools, but our ultimate goal is to get another referendum out there and to correct the issues 100%.
So if I just can go back to the numbers. So for those of you who weren't present at the meeting, I'll just share some of the numbers that were discussed at that meeting. For the 2021 school year, and this is just the transportation from home to school, 562,420. That was for the 2021 school district. And please keep in mind that this includes a discount because we share the buses with West Essex. So this is with a discount. For the 1920 school year, it was 428,600. And that included a discount for that time period that we were closed from March until June when COVID first hit. For the 18-19 school year, it was 405,205. Okay? So as you can see, those numbers have gone up. With regards to the question before about the ridership, it was for Stevenson School. We're seeing ridership at Stevenson, less ridership. Obviously, you know, the kids are younger. I can only assume that the parents may not feel comfortable putting their children on the bus. I don't know. I don't know what the reason is. But I can tell you that the largest issue that we're having is at Stevenson School.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'm sorry, I misstated when I said both schools. I stand corrected. Anybody else? Someone to say, please let me know.
Hi, Tyler Masterson. I did go back and look at some of the presentations following the information meeting on January 27th. And, you know, it looks, you know, supported by the agenda tonight that the move from third graders to Churchill and the trailers was from the projected demographic survey. Now, I know that you guys did one in 17 and 19 for the referendum. Is that the numbers that are in tonight's agenda, or was there an additional, more up-to-date survey that you're using to project an additional 89 students?
Yeah, there's some, it's in the referendum tab. There was a more recent demographic study done.
So I saw the Whitehall in 17 and statistical forecasting in 19.
Under the board tab, and then there's archived referendum information.
Yeah, so if you go to the district website, let me just go back here, and you go to board, on the left, it'll say April 20, 2021 referendum, and on the...
So I'm familiar with the two from some 19 and 2017. Was there a third demographic study and projections for increased enrollment after that?
I just want to get you the date that we did, because we did one prior to the referendum going out, just so that we can update our numbers. I saw it on the website somewhere. I looked at it the other day. Do you have another question while we're looking it up?
I do, you know, and I'm just, you know, I'm really looking for why you're acting on the move now. You know, if you're using data from 17 or 19, that hasn't come to fruition. So that can't be the driver of why we're doing this for the next school year. And, you know, it's a drastic change for the kids when the alternative for a short-time solution would have been to increase class sizes temporarily, maybe by 1 or 2 students per grade. I mean, that's the increases that we've seen over the last 5 years since 2017, as far as I can pick up from the different minutes in the meetings that, you know, that I was able to go back and calculate. So when you're considering a short-term solution, at least to get us to the next referendum, why not make the easiest choice and just expand the size of the classes for 1 or 2 years by probably not even a student per class, since there's about 5 classes per grade. I don't think we even have 1 extra student per class. That's something that the kids won't even recognize, as opposed to moving an entire grade who've already been through so much from one school to another, and then the entire 5th grade to trailers. We may get to trailers when the referendum hopefully will pass the next time, but I'm just not sure why you're doing that now. I think that it probably could have waited a couple of years until we really saw that increase in enrollment, which it doesn't really seem that we have right now.
Susan, do you have any, projections with the, what about the class sizes? What we, I know we.
I don't have it on you, but we went over, and if you increase it, the numbers are all in the high twenty, the higher 20s.
So your class size projection was based on if you went from 5 classes to 4. But if you had 5 extra students in grade 2, you wouldn't reduce the amount of classes that you'd have. You'd add 1 student to each class. So for grade 2, for example, that would bring the number from 19 students per class to 20.
But I don't know how you're getting to that because you have to cut a section. So if you cut a section, because we need space. The problem is we don't have the space for our instruction. So in order to get that space, we would have to cut a section.
But I think that what people don't understand is enrollment hasn't gone up that much. So we've had this,
Let's allow
we've had
her,
this
let's allow her to.
same amount of students, and it's been done.
We've
And if
discussed
we're
this,
looking for
we've
short
discussed
term,
this, well, short term is at least 3 years. So if you look at, just from, on the agenda, it shows from last year to this year, we have 18 students already increase. That's just from last year to this year. There's been a high turnover of homes in the town, which means when somebody buys into town, more than likely it's gonna be a family, a young family with students, which means additional students. Now, the last few meetings, and even when we were talking the referendum, there was discussion about how, and even the special meeting, that there's no space for the special instructions, and we have multiple teachers using a single classroom. We have teachers in hallways or wherever they may be. We're using the gyms. So in order to address that, once again, to put money back toward the, and improving the education that we're giving the students, we have to address those issues, those space issues. In order to do that, you'd have to potentially cut a section here, a section there. So your number of 1 or 2 students now turns into a class of 20 going into 4 sections. So that's 5 additional students, I'm just doing simple math, into each classroom. Now, I know we've always prided ourselves, we've always prided ourselves that we had small classrooms, student to teacher relationship. And the board over the years, and Andrea can confess, we've always said that that was one of our top priorities, to keep that classroom small and to keep the class sizes small.
I
So
agree, and I think long-term that should definitely
Right,
be
so
a
to
goal.
go from 18.
But when you're talking about increasing for
allow me
a
to
short
finish.
period of time.
So from going from 18 to now 23, that's a big jump.
See, I don't see where you're getting those numbers. I'm looking at
Once again,
what was reported on your minutes from June 21.
Ms. Masterson, I'm sorry, excuse me if I just may interject, we're in violation of Robert Rules of Order. We need to ask a question and please allow the board members to address it so we don't engage in an exchange or a debate.
So let me just finish this, and then you can ask the next question. Once again, if we need the space for instruction, we have classrooms, it was mentioned at the specials meeting, it was mentioned during the referendum, if we have classrooms with multiple teachers, that's not a good learning environment. You all spoke about great learning environments. Well, this is what we're trying to continue and trying to do. So when we do that, and if you need classrooms, we've moved the board office out, we've moved other offices out to change them into classrooms. We're having makeshift classrooms. So you have to, if you have to continue that, you're taking a full class. Forget the numbers of increasing, because that's yeah, maybe there's small amounts here and there, but when you add those over, plus the need to grab a classroom here and grab a classroom there, that's 20 students. Now those 20 students go from 5 sections to 4 sections. I've got to put 5 extra students in each classroom. And once again, the board has always made a priority to keep classroom sizes small. We think that's the best way for our students to learn. And that's where the issue runs into why we are going, unfortunately, toward it's not 100% done yet. We're still in negotiations and discussing the costs, but that's the best solution right now fiscally, because as mentioned at that last meeting, and correct me if I'm wrong, once again, to go out to find a building or to rent was not only going to cost us rental, but then we had to pay for the construction to make those buildings or wherever we're leasing the floor up to code for the Department of Education standards. And a lot of these tenant or landlords wanted 5, 6, 7, some even 10-year commitments. So at that point, it's money being thrown out for a 10-year commitment that we're hopefully not gonna need for more than 3 years. So that's what we've been talking about and why the decisions are being discussed.
Sure. I can't tie 20 new students just based on the numbers that
Well-
are given each meeting on the agenda. So that's where we're at a disconnect.
I'll just answer that quickly, Tyler. If we have to go from 5 sections to 4,
I don't see why we'd have to do that. That's
space issues, because we're not just accounting for the trailers, we're accounting for space, not a small increase. You're right. If we didn't have a space issue and there was 5 children going in 5th grade and there was 5 classrooms, it would be 1 student per classroom. But when you're cutting a section down due to space issues, you're going from 5 sections to 4, and from 20 students to 25, plus the 1 additional each. That's where we're getting our projected numbers from. It's a combination of both a space issue and student size. It's not one or the other. You have to combine the two together. And programs.
okay. I mean, I guess I would wonder what is causing the need for all of this extra small group space, but that's a conversation for another time. The only other question I had was, what are the plans and the goals for the preschool over the next 5 years? Are you looking to expand it to more students? Are you looking to go full day?
So
What do you have on your
nothing.
5-year plan for that?
Right now, preschool is what is mandated, so I know I'm just correct to ask why we don't cut preschool. We cannot. It is a program for our disabled students, and they have to have peers in there that are not disabled. So we are offering the bare minimum of what we can offer at this point because we do not have the space. Our goal was to offer a full day program. We cannot do that. So it's half day and it's only what we have to provide for our students. So next year we're going back to lottery because we do not have the classes to allow everybody to come in.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Hi, Nicole Studall, 28 Allen. I just had one question with moving 3rd grade to Churchill. When was that decision made? Like, when did we realize that we needed to make that move?
There's certain things that the board does not have to make a motion on.
Mhm.
That's an operational, educational, so that is something that the administration put forth and thought that's the best. They share it with the board, and we, have a discussion, but we don't legally have to motion and say yes, because the board is not involved in the daily operation of education.
Okay, I guess I'm just curious because during the referendum meetings, I don't recall this being put on the table, 3rd grade moving to Churchill prior to the referendum being complete. So that's why I was wondering when it happened, and I could have missed it.
Once it comes down to, again, space issues.
But that's we would have had the space issue regardless because the referendum would not have been done this upcoming year. So did we talk about this then and I missed it, or did this just come out of nowhere? Because even if it passed, your space issue would exist next year and the year after.
But
We talked about that at the special meeting, and someone asked, do we still have needed the trailers? And unfortunately, in October this year, we learned, yes, we are going to need them. So we didn't, we can't predict if we're gonna need trailers based on our numbers at the time. Our numbers were fine. But then when new students came in and started with our preschool, we explained that at the special meeting. That is pumping out what we need, so we need the room.
The trailers actually make sense to me, love them or hate them. I don't know, you're not being clear on, was 3rd grade going to move regardless when we presented that referendum? Because before the referendum, like before the work was complete is my question. So
we had to, yes.
That was it, okay, that's my question, because I missed that, okay.
So I don't think anyone asked that, nor did we say that. There was never a plan to get trailers, but because we have no space, we need them, so the plan would have been to move the 3rd grade, because we're moving them anyway.
Okay.
And Nicole, just to touch on the special meeting that we had, not everybody was for this in the beginning, but when we compiled that panel, 3 through 6. So for me personally, first didn't make a whole lot of sense. But like I said in the special meeting, when you listen to the educators who really have their finger on the pulse of what's going on in our children's best interest, educational wise, it does make the most sense to do it.
Nope, I get it. I worked in Bergen County in a school for many years. We passed the referendum. But I guess it just feels like it didn't pass, so now we need to prove the space is gone. And I know you made it clear that's not it, but again, it wasn't, you'd run out of the space regardless if it passed. You understand? And the fact that it wasn't brought up prior, because you said nobody asked, it wasn't said, that should have been in the referendum. As the work is done, we will be moving your students before it's complete.
And just
That was my only question.
I'm sorry, just
Okay.
if I had a nickel for every time I heard on the street in the last 2 weeks that this feels like a punishment, I just want to assure you that it's not. The busing's not a punishment. These are hard decisions, but with the children's best interest in mind. Now, my child's going to be in a trailer, so when the decision's made, it's not based upon, for me, and for the other board members, you know, Jeff and I have kids in the district, kids that are going to be affected by these decisions. I want you to know that it's not a punishment. It's not a punishment for the referendum. I plan on being here for the next referendum and getting the communities involved in it.
I hope so.
I think the biggest advocate for the next referendum is the administrators that are here. Not a promotional firm. By hearing from the principals, hearing from the teachers and the specialists that are here day in and day out. If they can't sell you on why we need a referendum, don't let them.
But I also think hearing from the community about why they didn't pass it is really important too. And I get it.
We're aware.
I'm paying $9,000 a year for my kid not to be here right now. I want him back. That's why I have all these questions. That's why I moved here.
And we want them.
Don't say that.
We want them.
But all right, no, I was just curious about that third because that would impact him, and I didn't know that would have happened regardless. Thank you.
Christine Cifelli, 61 Deer Park Road. I just have a quick follow-up. So while I was asking you guys if you had come up with any other solutions to the busing issue, I mean, I was thinking of them. I didn't want to throw them at you. I was hoping you'd come up with some on your own. But I was wondering, why not charge all the parents? Is that something you can do? Because this way, you're going to avoid, because you're still going to get those parents that are going to sign up for the busing.
Legally, you can't. We have to provide outside of 2, so you can't charge someone outside of 2 miles.
So you're still going to have that issue where you got those people who are 2.15 miles away from the school. They're signing up for it. You're still paying for it. Yet,
They're not signing up,
They're not signing up automatically.
well, they already get it.
We have to give it to them. We have no choice whether they're using it or not.
Yes.
It stinks, you're right. but
And it
that's the
stinks.
law.
For me, it stinks because I've been using it. It stinks for my sister-in-law over there. She's been using it too. My in-laws have to put 5 kids on the bus every morning. We can't split them. And then they watch 2 other grandchildren. So it's like it's a burden, not only financial, it's a burden with how we have it set up to get our kids to school because we're a big clan in Fairfield. And there's a lot of us. So it's really frustrating. So I just want you to please keep at it. Talk to each other. Talk to the community.
Like I said, we are doing what we can to help subsidize. The cost,
I know.
without a court subsidizing, the cost could be about $1,000 a child.
I know, it's painful.
So what we did is we took that into consideration because, like as Anthony said, it's affecting us all. So we said we need to be able to do something,
But it's not
at the
affecting
same
everybody.
time without really making it very financially disturbing. And we're doing the best we can. So we are building in a
I understand. It doesn't affect everybody though. So just so you know, it affects Mr. DePascal. I know it affects him. It affects probably Mr. Diddick as well. It affects me. But it doesn't affect every single parent, which is frustrating to me as a person that uses the buses. I work in Patterson. I'm a school teacher in Patterson. My husband works in the city. We're both gone before 8 a.m. So it stinks. Moving on though. My other issue is the referendum. I know you guys are working on one. I think that's fantastic. What I would love to see is for you, I know you reached out to the parents because we all did a survey. I remember doing it. I would love for you guys to reach out to your community, your taxpayers. I feel like they didn't get any notification until like 2 or 3 weeks prior. They got that pamphlet. They were like, oh, what's this? Oh, interesting. They had no idea what it was. So I really feel like that's why you got shot down. Because if you were at the meeting where they were voting, it was all the elderly people. Okay?
I was gonna say, remember?
They don't look like this. They don't look like this. Okay?
There was a parent committee that was a group of parents that were informed of everything that went along, and we took their input, we took everything, and we thought that they were gonna bring it back and bring it home to everyone.
Blast it.
And guess what? It didn't happen.
It fell on deaf ears.
It fell, yeah, and it was up to us, and we all spread it the best we can. We tried year after year, took hours upon hours, and unfortunately, it didn't pass.
But again,
You know what I think we need moving forward, I'll openly say this, is we need liaisons. We need the people that do come to the meetings, month in and month out, to continue to step up, be part of the process, but more importantly, spread factual information.
but let us be part of the process.
I'm saying liaisons.
I understand that.
Who's involved 15 people, and I'm only saying this because I see you right in front of me. Mr. Ivers is going to have one opinion. You're going to have another, right? Mrs. Conti's going to have another, and Mrs. Sudolph's going to have another, and so is Mrs. Breslin. And then a meeting becomes 2 hours of a debate on what we should or shouldn't do, right? So with several liaisons that are part of this next process that could actually go out there and relay the information that the board's giving you, our administration's giving you, the principals are giving you, our principals are giving you, our teachers are giving you. We need you guys to continue to be a part of this, to spread the factual information on why we're making the decisions that we need to make in regards to the referendum.
Understandable. Reach out to us though. So one of the issues though was the board already voted on the model that they wanted. And I understand it had moving 3rd grade to the next building, and I know that's what was that was the ultimate goal. But maybe if you would have reached out to the community, let them vote on which one they thought was most reasonable. You know, when they feel like they have community involvement and they have a partnership with you. I feel like there was no partnership, there was no collaboration. And I understand, you're, okay, great, you know, that parent's got an opinion, that parent's got an opinion, I don't wanna listen to it. Reach out to us, because we do have important input, and I really feel like it could have moved. So I'm hoping for the next one, you reach out to us, you give us somewhat of a voice. You guys are our voice. You're not only the voice of the children, but you're the voice of the parents and the taxpayers too. We're all stakeholders here. So please listen to us, all right? I think you guys have a very tough job. I wouldn't want it, okay? I appreciate what you're doing. It's not easy because you're getting us yelling at you all day long. But please listen to us because we have ideas. Again, like your STEAM kids, we can come together and we can have great ideas. And my last issue is please follow up for the safety of the 3rd graders moving to Churchill, because I don't think that was addressed. Thank you so much.
If I can just make a comment, I keep hearing it over and over about Churchill's 3rd graders coming to Churchill and the safety. Mr. DePascal mentioned how the curriculum is written, pre-K to 2, 3 to 6. Now, I grew up in town. I went through the school system. I went through West Essex. And when I went through the school system, we were all in the same building. It was 2 K to 6 buildings. So we had everybody together, and nobody got hurt. Everybody learned and everybody got along. If you look at Roseland is K to 6, and they're operating without a problem. I know change is tough. And I think I may have said that, or I was quoted on saying that. Change is tough. It's tough for everybody. Nobody likes change. But you have to look at the big picture and understand that sometimes change, as tough as it is going to be good in the long run. And that's what we looked at, and we took it, as Mr. DePascal said, we took it from the educators. They know best. as to what's the best way to educate the students and to keep the program strong. You saw it tonight. This is a fantastic program that we have here. And in order to continue that, it's best to align the curriculum where it should be. And as for the safety of students, like I said, we were that way once before. We're going back that way now. There's still separation. And other districts are operating in a K-6 in one building. Roseland is one single building with everybody together, so it's not even separate buildings. They're all in one building. So I think if we allow the change to happen and we see the positives that will come from it, I think everybody will be okay with this.
To touch on what everyone's been talking about all night, our STEAM program. In third grade, a great bunch of kids. And, I see them in and around town. They're a part of my day-to-day life. But we are as concerned about those kids as we are the kids that are currently struggling education-wise due to being taught remotely over the last year. So again, keep in mind, there's a lot that goes into what we're doing and why we want smaller classroom size. It's not a shock to me that more kids this year are struggling than last year. They learned virtually for a year. Our educators knew this was going to happen. The Board of Education knew this was going to happen. And I'm assuming a lot of parents knew this was going to happen as well. Right? Because as great as the teachers are, and believe me, I have a very flexible schedule, very flexible. I'm home an awful lot. I listen to my daughter's teachers, and I listen to my son's teachers, and they did a phenomenal job. A phenomenal job teaching remotely, in and out of service. Right? But even with that, right, there's still some gaps that need to be filled with the student body. So trust in what we say about classroom size, about will 2 or 3 or 4 students make a difference? It will. And just take that in consideration. And you were saying change. Long, long time ago in grammar school, my favorite teacher told me, without change, there's no growth. And I think that's everything in life. Without change, you will never grow. And it's a tough decision. Thank you for acknowledging that and saying you wouldn't want to be up here. You don't want people saying what you're doing shady or demeaning or non-transparent. We're volunteers that are up here trying to make the best decisions on behalf of your children and all the children in the school, including, Pat and Andrea and Brian, who have been on the board for a long time and know the intricacies of budgeting and the do's and the don'ts. But for guys like Mr. Diddick and myself that literally have children in the program. So I ask as a board member that you look at it from all the perspectives, not just the one that you approach us with on the nights of the meetings. Mr. Ivers, I'm sorry.
I like to doing this at home on Zoom better. Bob Ivers, 16 John Street. I've got 4 questions, and I'm sorry I was late to the meeting, so if there was something that was discussed, I missed. It was coaching youth basketball. Is there a relationship between the busing and the move? Like, it's all money. There's a lot of, there's money involved. I was really surprised and shocked when I got the little memo that said, oh, we're moving to 3rd grade and we're gonna put them in trailers. Because I remember distinctively having discussions, a year and a half ago in the middle of, pandemic, asking for trailers and being told, no, we can't do that because it's way too expensive. It's $100,000 a trailer. So is that $100,000 a trailer now coming from the busing budget? And is there a link that, for the good of the path that you're looking to take with the trailers, is there a link that now is affecting all the families that bus? Is that all tied together? I don't know how that.
The move from moving 3rd graders to here, whether the 3rd grade moved or not, the busing has no relevance. Just like the referendum. Referendum passed. If the referendum had passed, the busing situation is still here. it's apples and oranges.
Where's the money coming for this move that wasn't here 2 years ago when we had a pandemic and we were all screaming to get our kids in classes?
I didn't say that that we're not gonna utilize some of the savings in order to address what we need with space issues. I said that the busing situation was going to be here, whether the referendum passed, didn't pass, third grade stays at Stevenson or comes here. It's just inevitable that the decision was coming with the buses.
Again, maybe if I missed something, maybe can you help me then explain why is the busing situation different now? Maybe you talk to me after about that.
We said that over the years, busing went from $300,000, we're at $562,000. So we've already had, at the special meeting, Mr. Santana just gave an example that we went from classroom supplies of $70,000, we had to cut them down to $34,000, I think you said, right? So right there, we've been cutting. We've been cutting here and there and everywhere to continue with the courtesy busing. It's now come to fruition where, it'll come to head where.
North of 100,000, just because I was jotting notes as Leanna was spewing it out before. Every year the busing has been increasing north of $100,000, which has brought us to where we are right now in regards to courtesy busing.
And I don't know if you were here before, but we said that for the last 5 to 6 years, we've been putting this off. Because every year it keeps going up and up and up, and we.
At least since I've been here.
Yeah.
The
Every
administrator,
year.
my first year, said the courtesy busing is not going to be sustainable. And I've been here for 9 years.
And we keep saying every year, we're like, we can't do it, we can't do it, we gotta keep it, we gotta keep it, we gotta keep it for the parents, for the parents, for the parents. And it got to a point where we just can't afford it now.
Okay, this is a more simplistic question. For the busing, I think our notice, Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, said, oh, we're within that 2-mile range for our daughter to go to school next year at Churchill. If I could fly over Hollywood Bridge, we're less than 2 miles.
We did address it. It's considered a temporary issue, so therefore the state of New Jersey indicates that you don't reroute because it's temporary. Had they removed Hollywood Ave Bridge altogether, then yes, the argument stands.
We're hoping to get an update on Thursday. We have a meeting. Originally, they thought July, but I don't want to say for sure because you know how construction is, right? So we're hoping to get an update at our meeting on Thursday.
Because that's a real impact to a lot of people. I mean, it took me 10 minutes to get here, at night.
Just because the state says so doesn't mean we agree.
Okay.
Just so we're all on the same page. Just because the state says it's temporary and and now you have to travel outside of it, I don't agree with that.
Okay.
I'm sure you don't, and most of the general public, but it's how it's written with the state, unfortunately, which we have no control.
Okay. And I've heard mention of the referendum that didn't pass. What is the path forward? Are you looking to put the new referendum together? Is there a committee? I volunteer to join. I offer you guys information. I can help lay things out. I really want to help. So I don't know when that starts up.
We did mention that the board is going to go forward with another referendum. We are getting out of our budget cycle right now. We want to concentrate on getting the year completed, and because there's so many dates that you're allowed to introduce a referendum, we're going to work as to which day we can possibly get one done without doing it. I don't want to say without doing it half. The rest of the way. Yeah, halfway. So we are going to move forward, and I think Mr. DePascal mentioned it. We're going to look forward to liaisons. We're going to look forward. We're going to do it differently. You learn from your mistakes, and we're going to.
If you don't mind me adding, is that we were supposed to do like tours of buildings, open house so people can see it, and then COVID hit. And so a lot of the way that we presented it was not how we were, intending to present it. I don't know how many of you know that there's a classroom behind here. This was a stage.
Just look up.
Yeah, great. This is our band room right behind this wall. It's not a great environment. And these are the things that I think the community needs to see, not just parents. I think the community needs to see it, and we weren't able to do that. So we're hoping we can do that this time, and we want more parents involved and community members to be able to come and see what's going on.
Okay. And I guess my last.
3 and you're out. No. One more, guys.
Well, is it definite that the third grade's moving into trailers, or is that still an
So,
option?
correctly, I didn't want to do it before because you were in the middle. The third graders are not moving into trailers.
Oh, I'm sorry, fifth graders, I'm sorry.
Yeah, not
I'm
the third
sorry.
grade, yeah, the fifth graders would be in the trailers.
Again, I don't have my paperwork squared away. But is that a definite, or is that still on the table? Because what's the statement you made? You need change in order to grow. You know, you guys keep saying what about your priorities having the small classroom sizes. So, you know, as much as you want us to change, maybe for a year you guys could think about changing what your priorities are, because it might be the priorities for a few that are going to affect the priorities of the grade. So, that's it. Thank you.
How you doing? Anthony Carmignola. I gotta say, the gentleman who spoke first couldn't say it any better about the masks, okay? And I appreciate you guys being forthcoming about March 7th date, but I gotta ask, I don't have much more to say, because I gotta say again, can't say any better than what he did. What if, or what are you gonna do when it changes back to mandating masks? I gotta know that you're ready to stand up against this tyrannical crap.
I'm not gonna answer that question because we're not gonna speculate anything.
When it changes, it's changed
I'm not-
every time.
we're not- we're not-
Okay. Hold on. When it changed every time. It's changed every 3 months to every couple of weeks. It's gonna change back. We're cynical to think.
What are you gonna do when you go outside?
We're cynical to think that it's over March 7th. So what he said still stands, and I agree. Why not now? Be done with it. Give the counties and the boards around you a little bit of energy. Put a vibe into it, because it's gonna change back, guys. It's going to.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Have you reached out to the governor at all?
Absolutely, yes, I have.
Okay, have you gotten a response?
Not a one.
Okay. So you come to every single meeting and we answer the same way every single meeting. And we tell you as soon as the mandate is lifted, that we will lift it. So right now it's March 7th, and we're saying that if that goes along, that's great. If the governor changes it, our hands are tied again.
And I've mentioned every single time that what you're referencing is unconstitutional and unlawful, but we're all still doing it despite that. And I provided you with an affidavit and 22 medical studies that say what we're doing to our children is harmful. I have not received a response from anybody, so I'm going to assume that you agree with it or you haven't read it. One or the other, I don't care. What you're doing to my child is bad for her health, okay? And it's not helping anyone else's child either by putting a mask on her. If anybody behind me wants to put a mask on their children, fine, good on them. I'm really done with it. So my next question is, when I show up with my child without a mask, will you forcefully remove us from school?
If the mandate, I'm not gonna answer, but I'm assuming if the mandate is that you have to be masked.
Because she's being harmed, physically and mentally. Will you forcefully remove us from school?
If the mandate is you're masked and you come unmasked and you're not gonna follow the rules, just like any other.
And what law would be broken?
I'm sorry?
What law would be broken where you have to forcefully
I'm
remove
not
us from
gonna have
school?
this discussion.
I'm sorry, sir, but
It's a mandate. If you go rob a bank, are you gonna get in trouble?
That's a law. Yeah, I would. Yeah.
This
I'm
is a
sorry,
law.
this is not a law. Did it?
So we can go to jail
Did Congress
and
pass
we
this
can
or-
get fined if we let the children come unmasked. That means it's a law.
No, it doesn't. It means you're being coerced. I'm sorry, guys. It means you're being coerced.
At this point, we appreciate your time and effort, but you're asking the same question, you're asking questions that we've answered before. As of right now, our plan is to be maskless or mask optional on March 7th. We will not cross any other bridge until we get there.
Fair enough. But for the record, I haven't asked that question. It's the first time I've asked it because it just came out, right? So last time I asked you was, what are you going to do about being unconstitutional and infringing on my rights? I haven't gotten a response. If the response is still no response, I'm urging you, please, if it changes, just stand up with us. There's a lot of people here now. There's a lot of people here. You're going to have more, okay? We do support you. I'm coming off aggressive. I don't intend to. It's not towards you. I know it's not your fault that we're here. But you guys are our avenue to fix it. You really are. We can't do it without you. All right? So I appreciate your time.
Just without change, there's no growth. I know this is all happening, and I'm guilty as charged. I don't come to these meetings. I'm not. I mean, kudos to you guys, because having a little anxiety myself with this. And my father sat on this board, the West Essex board, for over 19 years, and as you know how I feel, it's a thankless job, and I appreciate it. I want to put a plug in that maybe with the money we saved with all this, that we can maybe put it into teacher salaries too, because I think that our teachers do a wonderful job, and I don't think they get paid very well. And I really do think that we've had wonderful experiences with the teachers here, and they are a blessing, and they're wonderful, and I think some of it should go to them too, because they really, and we've all heard them too in our homes and everything, and they're a tremendous staff. So I think that I don't know if there's committees that do that, and again, excuse me, guilty as charged. I was here because my son was here for the wonderful program, and I appreciate all the programs. But if there are stakeholder committee meetings or school-wide committee meetings, forgive me for not knowing that. I know my school, we have those. I'm just not sure if we do have those. I'd love to, be in on that, or have people, like we said, the community. If we are saving a bunch of money, I'd love to have more programs here. I would love that. I'm not sure how that's decided upon or who makes all those decisions, but that would be a great thing for the community to have some input on as well, because there's a lot of great minds out here that have a lot of ideas for what we can do with the money for the children. And, like I said, just for the teachers, I really think that I know it's all about the kids, but they're amazing too, so they deserve a little bit of a plug as well. Thank you.
Before you come up, I want to just make sure that there's nobody else who has questions, because I know we're getting repetitive. Is anybody who hasn't spoken up have anything that they want to comment or question us? Anyone? Please, somebody? No, I'm kidding. Go on.
I have a big mouth. I happily work as a liaison. I volunteer. So actually, back to the referendum. Someone's handed me the trifold because I couldn't remember. I asked this several meetings ago. Are we prepared to bring it back to vote September 22, since we're allowed to?
I don't know.
And it's so pressing. I mean, we're in dire straits here, so.
We are going to, as mentioned, we are going to go ahead and prepare. I don't know if we're going to get September. That doesn't mean we're. I'm sorry. Yeah, there's a lot of.
Everything that you're asking, like the community to be involved and so on and so forth. The state, it holds up the paperwork to be fair and approved. I mean, that's what took us last time. Now we can afford it.
Yeah, so just to go back, the state of New Jersey has four dates where an election can be held for a referendum. The fourth Tuesday in January, the second Tuesday in March, the last Tuesday in September, and the second Tuesday in December. And as you know, we started the process about, I think, a year and a half before the referendum election even took place.
So we have a lot of the legwork done, but we're going to have to resubmit plans and all that stuff.
So that's just no.
I doubt September is going to work.
It's not. I can tell you.
Okay.
No way. We're gonna get it done. Not to get everybody in and do what we need to do.
We will. I mean, it is going to be a priority, but September is going to.
And I'm going to tell you, I will make it a priority. If we can do it, we will do it.
It's a priority for all of us, because we don't like the way programs are right now, with everybody scattered in cafeterias, and honestly, we should do makeshift classrooms. This is not the way, look up at the ceiling. This is not what we should be looking at in Fairfield. It's not.
I agree. Thank you.
I have one more too. It was a real simple one, and I don't even need a mic. It's on pretty loud. I don't know if you noticed it.
Mr. Ivey, you have to come up because we do have it streaming.
We're on YouTube now, so we need you to.
Everyone needs to see.
Actually, that's kind of what my question's about. Is there a Zoom link to this? Because I don't know if you noticed this, but I was at all the meetings on the Zoom link, and in person, this is my first one, and again, I'm running around doing 20 different things. There's a lot of other people. I remember when we were having the Zoom meetings, Now granted, there was a lot of big stuff going on, but we kind of have big stuff going on here, and I see about 30 people. And I know when we had the other stuff going on, there was like 150, 200. So if you really want to communicate with the community, maybe it would be worthwhile to open up a Zoom link. Maybe you put it out as optional for attending so everyone can listen in.
But they are.
Oh, they are?
They are.
Oh, so it is a
We're
Zoom.
streaming live.
Oh, okay.
This is our second, we talked about in the beginning, this is our second live, we use that.
All right, because the earlier ones weren't, it was you had to come to the meeting.
It's YouTube, so what happens is they're seeing it live, it's archived so that if anybody who missed it or if you want to go back and review it, it's going to be archived on the YouTube channel.
Okay, but if you want to speak up, you have to come, but if you want to listen in, you can.
Yes.
Progress. Good, thank you.
And just to give you an idea, there's the last meeting, the special meeting on Thursday, there was, at one point in time, we had 120 people on. Right now, there's 90. So we are getting it out there, people are watching and listening. Now that's gonna hopefully, everyone's gonna be afraid to speak.
Hi, Tyler Masterson. Just a very quick question about the busing survey. Do you know a timeline of when you'll be communicating results or the next steps from the survey?
An email went out with the results already.
So my daughter is not in school yet. Would I have been on that list to receive the email?
I would have to check because I think you and I communicated and I mentioned to you that because you have registered, that's why you didn't get the first round of survey.
I did get the survey later that
The first
day.
round you did not, the second
Okay.
round you did.
Okay.
So I would have to see if you were included on that email, but an email did go out with the survey results.
Okay. Can you summarize what the outcome was?
Yeah, I think preliminary numbers, and I'm going to say there was 375 students were eligible. I think 303 families responded. Let's see. We had, the majority were round trip. We had, I think, about 29 who stated they would need one way, and 20 did not indicate which way they would want to go. If they were going to do double, round trip or one way. So that's what brought us to stating that we got the over 50%, and now the next phase is, as I think was explained before, now it's, if they send back the actual, I'm going to use it, here's my deposit, that'll definitely help with how we're going to go about with the busing.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I know I asked it, I don't think anybody answered it. Are you guys, how did you determine who was eligible for busing and who was not?
2 miles or above.
I know that, but
Yeah.
how did you determine?
Oh, it's, I think Google Maps, right?
We consulted with other districts that have subscription busing in place, and what they do is they use a combination of Google Maps, MapQuest. In some cases, I also had to throw in Waze just to kind of get more accurate reading. The issue with Google is that Google does live, which takes into account the detour. So that's where we had to use MapQuest, because according to the DOE state law, we cannot, the bridge closure is not permanent. So Google Maps was not ideal, so that's where we had to introduce MapQuest.
So, the districts that you conferred with, had they not already prior done surveys though of the town and mapped everything out before they resorted to using that? Because that seems like a supplemental thing, it doesn't seem like an actual thing when we're making such a big move.
I cannot speak for what other districts do, whether or not they did
No, I'm
surveys, I do not know that.
So when was the last time we had a survey or map out our town and just determine who lives where?
If I could answer that, Leanne, it's simple. If you live at this address, put it in Google Maps. If you're inside of 2 miles, you don't qualify. If you're outside of 2 miles, you do. I know there was misinformation on social media about 2 miles as the crow flies. That's inaccurate. And there's a perch on.
It's from door to door.
2 miles, so
From
initially.
home to school.
Yeah, from home to school.
Shortest distance.
Shortest distance home to school. So there's no.
And it doesn't
There's no survey that needs to
necessarily,
be done. It's individually, I can Google Map my house to school, as can you and everyone out there. But, post, someone posted 2 miles as the crow flies, and it's not that, it's actual,
And now the law with the temporary bridge, what other parameters are surrounded in that? Because how, again, if that's a 5-year thing,
No, it doesn't take into
bridge-
account.
The bridge is not, the bridge, we're hoping that they initially said a 14-month project. Hopefully it's gonna be less than that, but it's considered a temporary, block so that the state states that we don't take that into account.
okay. And I think when they were speaking about the safety of the third graders, I don't think they were speaking inside the building per se, more so outside of the building. Have you guys thought about what we're gonna do to keep them safe in the back of the building?
Again, when I was here, I mean, not that I'm, but the grounds were the way they were. I'm sure that there's safety, there's staff outside, there's aides outside, so I'm sure. So that, and we have Officer Joe who's always, walking around, so, we,
It's technically the equivalent of our children being out of recess. That, again, we're asking you to look at it from every angle. Officer Joe is the best, right? He patrols the hallways, the cafeteria, everywhere. It's, I'm sure there's times during lunch or recess that Officer Joe is not outside. I'm sure there's times that he is outside. Now as far as additional safety measures, scanning mechanisms to get into and from the classroom, these are all things that we're gonna consult with the monitor, local police department, and their advice.
we've updated the exterior cameras, so we are taking safety. If I may, and I'm gonna give the board and the administration a pat on the back. Prior to anybody else doing the class, the officers in the schools, we were the first one in the area to institute that. So we do have safety as a priority of ours. We don't take that lightly. Going once, going twice. Thank you all for attending, appreciate it. One final announcement, the next Board of Education meeting will be March 15th, here in the same small gym. Executive will start at 7, and the public session will start at 7:30.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good night, all.
I don't know what to do.